Hello, well, welcome back. So we're gonna go and discuss mouse listening. So last time we were able to listen to keyboard inputs. This time around, we want to figure out if we can incorporate mouse input. Similar to last time, right? What we wanted to do was we wanted to say that the main panel that they listen for keyboard inputs using the implements key listener. So an action listener, a key listener, and then now a mouse listener. Those are all interfaces, and interfaces represent some sort of behavior. That set of behavior is just a set of method. So if we say that a main panel implements a mouse listener, well, that means that the main panel needs to have all of the methods that describe a mouse listener. So that's why I was just importing just now. So the methods that we have to implement are all of these over here, right? So this is what represents a mouse listener. So when we claim that we're a mouse listener, that just means that that class includes all of those methods. We're overriding them. Okay, great. So now we need to connect this idea that the panel is listening or is ready to listen for mouse input, but we need to connect that to the JFrame, right? Similar to how we did it for the keyboard listening. So this one, connect frame or connect JFrame to keyboard listening code. We want to do the same thing. Connect JFrame to mouse listening code. Okay, so if you had to guess, what would it be? Pause the video. I feel like one of those Dora Explorer videos. You're gonna do add mouse listener. That was your guess. You are correct. All right, now I feel silly. I should stop doing that. Oh my gosh, spelling not happening today. Okay, so there we go. So now we want to test, does that work? Is the connection there? All right, so to kind of recap, one, we want to go ahead and say that we implement the mouse listener. We're going to import a couple of classes. And then finally, we're going to implement the methods by including them in the main panel class. And those methods were these. Now let's see if these methods are actually being triggered. So these are very descriptive method names, right? So if you really had to guess on what they do, I think because of the descriptive names, you could tell. Mouse click. Let's see. So this says if we click on the frame, right, then we should trigger this method. So let's see. There's my console over here, and every time I click on the frame, it works. Great. So for now, that's really what I want to focus on. You can figure out and play around with the other methods and see if you can trigger them yourself. So mouse click. Okay, so now let's see what we can do. What do we want to do when there's a mouse click? Maybe let's say your mouse, you're just trying to play a shooting game, and maybe your mouse is targeting a duck or something, right? So this is similar to the duck hunt at this point. What we want to do is some sort of collision detection. Now you can manually do collision. So for example, let's say you have your ball here and then you have your mouse somewhere, right? If you can determine the location of both objects as well as their width and height, then you can figure out whether or not they intersect in that 2D space. But what we're actually going to do is actually simplify this whole collision. You could do it manually, right? You can have some sort of long Boolean expressions and if statements checking to see if, let's see if you want to think in terms of a number line, right? Essentially, you want to see whether or not there's any sort of interaction between intervals. But we're going to simplify it by using the rectangle class. The rectangle class is kind of like what I've drawn here. But essentially what we want to do is we want to represent the two objects as rectangles. And then it turns out that the rectangle class actually has a built-in helper method to check for collision. So let's do that now. I'm going to go to the mouse clicked. So here I'm going to create my rectangle for the ball. So BR for ball rectangle, then new rectangle. So a rectangle in a 2D space requires X, Y, and then a width and height. What we want to do is we want to add getters to the ball class. So if you haven't already, go ahead and get your, add your getters for the 3 instance variables X, Y, and width. Of course, those are pretty simple at this point in time in your life, I hope. All right, cool. So we're gonna go and say, okay, b.get x, because again, I added that getter, b.get y, b.get width. We know for the fact that the ball itself is circular, so we know that the width and height should be the same. Sorry, my keyboard is messing up. I promise it's inserting extra characters for some reason and doing that. Oh my gosh. Then we also have to import the rectangle class. We're going to do the same thing for the mouse. Okay, so how do we actually get the location of the mouse, right? Similar to the keyboard input listening, every time there's a mouse click, all of that is actually encapsulated in an object called arg0. So I'm going to change this. Instead of arg0, I'm just going to call it m for mouse. So now we can just query the mouse for its location. M.get x, M.get y. In terms of the width and height, we're just gonna approximate it and say it's a 50 by 50 pixels. And this is going to be BM for, actually we're gonna call it MR or mouse rectangle. So if you're curious about like what all there is for a mouse, again, remember you can do the dot operator, and then the auto suggestions can give you a reminder for what's available for that object, right? So now, okay, that's great. We've represented the two. If you have a ball over here and then the mouse is over here, as you can see, right, the rectangle representation of these two objects, there should be some sort of intersection. And so that's what we're going to do now. Let's just ask it. If br.intersects mr, then we can just do something like collision. Then, so as you can see, I can click anywhere on the JFrame, right? But since we're protecting that collision statement and with an if statement, a blocking statement in some books, it's not going to run unless that condition is true. And as you can see, it's only true when we get close to the ball. So, you could figure out the proper X and Y and width and height that would make it so that you're really detecting good collision with the ball. And I think that's pretty much it, right? So in terms of mouse inputs, so any game that requires you to figure out where the mouse is, and if you want to detect clicks of any point, you can do that. Now there's also mouse motion. So these are for the clicking, and let's see, there's another one called mouse motion. So let's see, it's been a minute since I've used mouse motion. Where again, we're doing the same thing. We're going to implement a mouse motion listener, and then let's see what's happening. So for the mouse motion, if you're interested in these events, right, a mouse drag and a mouse move, that's probably what you want to do, right? If you are interested in being able to drag around the screen and detecting that behavior, then you want to do the mouse motion. Remember, to connect that to the JFrame, you have to go to the constructor and add a line that connects the MouseMotionListener to the JFrame. Cool. And that's about it. So in the description of the video, you should find the GitHub for this code. Thanks.